everything about using any company's website now is just absolute garbage. Like,
Yeah.
it looks nice, but the actual
And there were
bad.
a lot of bad experiences on the earlier internet. They were just uniquely bad each time. You know,
Yeah, it was like that. It's like that company just did a bad job because they suck at design, as opposed to like the dark patterns of malicious design right now, which is like companies are good at design now and they hate you.
Butterscotch
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 543 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the game dev comedy podcast of Butterscotch Shenanigans. I'm Seth and I'm the games programmer.
I'm Adam the miscellaneous programmer.
I'm Sam and I'm the taste.
And this is a show where we talk about life, business, and working in the games industry. Today is still October 2nd, 2025.
Weird.
Yeah, before we get started, we have a warning. There's going to be profanity in this show. We'd also like to thank our recurring supporters over at moneygrab.bscotch.net. Thank you so much for your monthly donations to help keep the podcast going. And if you'd like to support the podcast in other ways, go over to YouTube and like and subscribe.
Like, subscribe.
Like, subscribe. Okay, so we're on our third episode we've recorded in a singular day because of Sam's upcoming nose job.
Yeah, I'm getting a nose job.
And not in a fun way. You know,
Yeah, there are fun nose jobs.
Yeah.
And they're not fun.
Yeah, I don't know if they're ever fun.
You know the ones you do because it's just you just feel.
Sometimes it's just like a Friday, and you're like, man, I could just go for
a nose job.
Go for a nose job.
No, this is the surgical kind.
Yes,
and it's going to be painful.
Yeah,
and have long-lasting healing implications. So we're just batching these episodes. So let's get into some questions.
Let's go.
Okay. Highest uploaded question, probably. I don't know. Like, it's by the time we record this episode, who knows what the top question will be? But right now, it comes from Glorious Cashew, who says, "Many have lamented the loss of Web 1.0 and longed to return to the days of forums.
Mm-hmm.
Will you lead this charge by reopening the Bscotch forum?"
Ooh, no. First of all, but we did have forums a long.
They're read only, but they are still alive. Right?
And we do have forums in the Discord.
Actually, no, I think they're not alive anymore now that I say that. Wait, yeah, can't hold on.
I think you can read them. I think
forums.bscotch.net.
Go.
Nope, I redirects to our support page.
Perfect.
So we had a PHPBB forum. That was what people used back in the day. And it was great. It was a great way to handle community stuff. It was a great way for the community to collect knowledge about like Crashlands 1 and that kind of stuff, right? But you know what else it is a thing we have to moderate and a thing we have to manage. And we ended up transferring over to Discord and Reddit, basically. Two kind of different purposes, but that's also where the players are, right?
Then nobody has to make a new account to use our forums or whatever.
Yeah, if you've been doing game dev for any time at all, you know that if you ask someone to make an account for something,
you might as well stab them in the face.
They will hunt you down and murder you and your family.
Mistake.
You're not allowed
to do
that. And we the way that we wanted to set it up was to make it so that it was like part of Rumpus, and so the old forums we had were connected to Bscotch ID, which is what we had before Rumpus, right? But to do that, I had to like set that up myself and figure out how to like make the authentication thing work, and because none of these things are built to make it so that you can just kind of plug your own stuff into them, and then just maintaining it just sucks, you know. But that, I think the main thing though is figuring out where players want to go, because they will not go to a thing that they don't want to, right? So practically speaking, I agree with the premise that forums conceptually great. It's great that they're just on the internet, so you can Google a thing, show up on the page. A well-done forum that's not riddled with ads and bullshit. One of the best kinds of resources historically out there. I think today, because of LLMs, I don't think the moderation story of managing information has become a waking nightmare. And I think there's no going back. We're far beyond the days where you could be like, "Ooh, cool! I'm going to set up a website. It's going to have a form where people can put information in there, and I can put it somewhere." We are so far beyond those days because the world of the internet is a bot an LLM riddled hellscape. And
and part of that is actually,
can't...
this is a consequence of people's unwillingness to make new accounts.
Yeah, because everything's centralized into
everything's centralized
closed ecosystems. Yep.
Yeah, like Facebook was the first to realize, like, hey, what if we just like make an API and let people use Facebook login to log into whatever? Because there was a period of time where you could sign into like most websites using your Facebook account, and everybody loved it because like, finally, I don't need to make a new account with this website and that website. But you know what that meant you were doing is you were sending all of the information about everything you were doing in full 4K detail over to Facebook, right? And that trend just continues. Like the more you do with one account, just the more centralized everything becomes, and the more you kind of funnel all the power and wealth into whoever manages that account, right? So, everything's done through Reddit. I kind of miss the days when it was like, you know what? I go to the forums for a game that I'm playing, and I use my account with that studio or whatever to communicate, and nobody else is privy to that. Like that's information that's, it belongs to the studio or whoever, but like Mark Zuckerberg has got nothing to do with it.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, it's
Mark,
yeah. But the internet is a hyper speed centralizing machine because of these like psychological tendencies that we have. Like we want convenience more than anything, right? So we won't make new accounts. We'll only interact with stuff if it's free, blah blah blah, and that just results in Spotify,
a certain shape of things,
and Reddit and Facebook.
And then and then we get the loss of the URL, right? Because that's the thing about forums and stuff is they were indexed in search engines, so you could find stuff that was in them. You could link somebody to a forum post or even a particular comment within it, which you can still do with something like Reddit, things that still live on the internet, right? But like, can't do that to a Discord.
Yeah, there's a lot of like information loss. Yeah. Interestingly, by
there's so much information lost as these things get consolidated, and discoverability because ultimately it comes down to like you want to be able to find something that you're trying to find the relevant thing, and you want it to be of some kind of high quality, right? When the place where that stuff lives is really convenient, like Discord, assuming you have an account, then and it's designed for real-time communication, it's noise. It wouldn't even make sense. Like it wouldn't make sense for Discord to be searchable, like indexable on the internet, because
it's too ephemeral.
It's 99.99999% stuff that nobody needs to see twice, right? And so forums are slower. Like if you like, especially old school forums, right? Like you log into it, it takes a second to load, right? And then you go to some page and you make a post, and it's like you hit a post button, then you wait a few seconds, and then the whole thing refreshes, right? It's a slow, kind of shitty experience, but it makes it so that there isn't as much stuff there. So stuff is a little bit more considered. It's a little easier to curate and manage, and the value of it being indexed and searchable goes way up. And it's also all on topic. Because like if you go into any Discord, well, it's a huge grab bag of topics, and then within a topic, whether or not stuff stays on topic, right? And on a forum, it's just like stuff doesn't get. It's like all the problems are still there. They're all just less intense, right?
Yeah, they're all slower.
To keep stuff on track. And
this makes me think too. Like people always talk about how the way that you get information on the internet is you search for it on Google and then put Reddit at the end of your Google.
Yeah.
And it's because Reddit is kind of the last forum. I wonder what it's going to be like to use the internet once Reddit is gone, or once Reddit, because like what happened with Twitter is Ding Dong Musk bought the thing and then put all these weird login blocks on it, where it's like, previously, somebody would link to a Twitter thread or something, and you could read it without a Twitter account. Now you can't. And I even saw something where there was a missing woman in St. Louis for a few days, and people were posting on Reddit trying to figure out if anybody had seen her, right? Turns out she's fine. They found her. I don't know what the whole story was of like where she ended up being, but this was happening on Reddit. And so like all these, you can read Reddit, and, just like some people even like from St. Louis, like made a Reddit account so that they could post into the thread because they're able to read the thread, and they can see it. But then when it was resolved, somebody was like, she's been found. The police department from that area, because there's like a lot of small townships, right? So like the police department from her township put out this press release. And I was like, oh, so I click on it, but it's on their Facebook page and I can't see it. So it's like this open tool allowed people to like communicate and help triangulate, find this person. But then the resolution of it is on a closed platform.
Yeah, to me, the bummer is the death of openly available information. Like that's why the fact that everything, like every restaurant menu is on Instagram of all things, or Facebook at best in terms of being able to access it. And
not having an Instagram account, which I still don't, has been it's been an interesting experience on the web because people always send me Instagram links to, it's like, oh, check out this video, or like things pop up all the time.
I have an account only so I can follow links to things that people send me because I don't use it for anything else, right?
Yeah.
It's exactly it. It's like you can't just discover stuff. But I think it's not just that. It's because like that's the part that like practically kind of sucks, but I can get accounts for things. It's not that
big a deal.
Right?
Just like we've done that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that big of a deal. And I mean, I'm careful about them because if it's the other problem with all these accounts, of course, is they're the most privacy invasive things in the universe. So I have to keep them all, isolated and be careful what I do with them. But it's doable. It's doable to do all of that stuff. And I get the convenience of it because, if you're setting up a new restaurant and you need people to know about it, why figure out how to build a website when you can just go, set up a Facebook account? I get it. But then to me, there's this huge loss that we get from because in the earlier days of the internet, you had to have your own website somehow, right? And so and almost all websites sucked. It's kind of like we were talking about in the last episode about the indie,
you didn't need a website. Like if you were a restaurant in 2010, you didn't need a fucking website. You're a restaurant. Like
you still did. I mean, because people still found stuff.
Better to have it, right? Yeah.
But it was better to have it. But people they would have it would be like their kid niece or something who was like making websites for her band would be like, hey, I can make a website for you, uncle, whatever, for like, it would just be some like,
gets the job done.
It gets the job done. But there's a thing you can go to, and there was something very charming about that thing where if you found something on the internet, somebody made it and it usually wasn't very good, right? But like, you're like, I know your job isn't to make websites, your job is to make food. And there's something charming about going to a shitty website to like learn about, and that's all like it's all gone. The variety of the internet experience has just.
I think it's mostly that it makes it so that everything becomes hyper competitive in the same ways. Where it's like now if you're a food truck, you still need to think about how you're plating the food because everyone takes pictures of it for Instagram. You know what I mean? So everything gets kind of funneled through the same kind of hyper competitive information.
Everything we do somehow is in service of the fucking billionaires.
Yeah. It's just
we can't just have a meal without getting Google and Facebook involved.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Well, there's a website I came across the other day. It was like, I think it was in like one of the web dev subreddits or something. It was just like the perfect website. And it's just a white background with black text. And it's basically just like talking about how incredible this website is because it does exactly what it purports to do. It's plain HTML. It loads instantly. It's got no fluff. You don't have to scroll past 1,000 giant full screen images to find stuff, But the site, it doesn't do anything. It's just a site that talks about the fact that it's perfect.
What's sort of like we joke about the perfect game being, and it's like just the raw cube that you click on, basically like a singular interaction, cookie clicker style.
Or there's that coin flipping PvP game, which is a game called Queue Up, which I played the demo.
How was it?
I mean, it's a coin flipping PvP game. It's pretty much what you'd expect. Because they were like,
what to expect.
Like, here's the thing.
I don't know what to expect.
The perfect PvP game doesn't exist because of balance issues.
Because of skill.
Right. Because there's so many factors that could go into winning and losing that, there's no matchmaking system can ever properly account for it. Right. Except what if everybody has a 50% chance of winning no matter what?
It's the thing about this is it's like, it reminds me of the conversations you've had where you talk about like a security team on a software product somehow becoming the ones who are making all the decisions about the product because they're like, so
and it's really secure, but it doesn't do anything.
It doesn't do anything anybody wants. Yeah, it's like the same. It's like, well, matchmaking is the problem in video games. It's like, that's the problem to solve.
That's the problem.
And it's like coin toss. That's the game. That's the whole
but
thing.
Also, it's the idea that imbalance is a problem, right?
Yeah,
because like imbalances make things interesting, like finding the contours of those imbalances and trying to navigate around them. You know, it's like, why do more people probably, I assume, play chess than checkers?
Yeah.
I don't know if more people play, but chess is definitely more, globally is like popular and renowned, right? Checkers is like, oh yeah, kids play checkers, but like grandmasters play chess. And it's because not every piece is the same, and that makes things interesting, But yeah, if it's just, I played the coin flipping game, and it was a pretty funny moment because it's like the way it works is it goes like rounds of 4, right? So it's like it's just 4 coin flips, which is funny that it's 4 because like on average it'll be a draw, but it's an average, right? And so like I played 2 rounds and I lost both times because I got tails 3 times. And I was like, man, maybe next time, And then I found myself queuing up for another round. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, it's a fucking coin toss.
It feels like it can't.
That's great.
Last, right? But that is an important point to all this stuff, right? Is that it's easy to have like just rose-tinted glasses of the earlier days of there and stuff, but it was a wild fucking place. It was an insane place, and yeah, you didn't have full page ads taking up your view everywhere, but you had pop-up banner ads and you had various kinds of
you said all sorts of weird shit.
Yeah, there was all kinds of malicious and weird shit going on. And in fact, because like the security picture of the internet was a lot worse, like on average, because browsers weren't as good. Like we hadn't solved as many problems that we've solved by now in browsers and stuff, right? So it was kind of a nightmarish thing to navigate, right? And most websites sucked. And because there weren't really good, affordable, but kind of off-the-shelf solutions to things like, not only do I want a website, but I want it to be up to date. I want to post updates to my pictures of my food or updates to my list of services or whatever. And you need to be able to handle things like customer support. Maybe you want people to be able to reach out to you, in that system. All that had to be handled fully bespoke by everybody or through really expensive means, right?
I would argue that most websites aesthetically sucked, but nowadays I think most websites experientially suck.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Like they go through design by committee, and then you've got like AI chatbots popping up like, hey, can I not help you with anything? Because I'm not a person and I don't know shit about anything, right? And then like when you go to cancel your account, they bury it in a tiny, like hard to read font off in the corner, and they force you to fill out a survey before they let you do it. Like everything about using any company's website now is just absolute garbage. It looks nice, but the actual
there were a lot of bad experiences on the earlier internet. They were just uniquely bad each time.
It was like that. It's like that company just did a bad job because they suck at design, as opposed to like the dark patterns of malicious design right now, which is like companies are good at design now and they hate you.
Well, that's the thing is like we've had decades of practice with malicious design and dark patterns, right?
Yeah.
And so now you see that everywhere you go, and the tech of the web has gotten really good, and the better a technology gets, the easier it is to do horrible stuff also of various kinds. Certain things become more difficult. It's harder to do a lot of kinds of like security vulnerability stuff than it used to be. But the sheer variety of things you can do, though, has made it so that there are just new ways of doing stuff, ever more new ways of doing stuff. So yeah, I don't know. To me, the perfect like time of my own experience on the internet was basically in 2010 or 2000. No, probably like 2008. It's like people had gotten good at building websites. We were past the very early phase where like websites just
genuinely
couldn't really function.
And hideous. Yeah,
we were getting into this like really interesting web app phase, but weren't quite there yet. So things weren't just like always a web app.
If you needed to buy something, sometimes you still went somewhere to do that, but not always.
But things hadn't. But also things hadn't been centralized into the mega social media machines. So you were still having a huge variety of unique experiences, so that something like Stumble Upon could exist. And there was a culture of people building personal websites, and remember, like, Blogger used to be like a career, right? That used to be like a thing that a person did as their job.
There was a
right?
blogosphere.
There was a blogosphere. Right? There was a whole.
I guess now there's
thing.
Substack. You know.
Yeah, the influencers now, like the transition to like more multimedia.
Yeah, but interestingly, like that's Substack is one thing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like blogging was something you just did on whatever. Like sometimes you had
It's
your
on
own
your personal
website.
blog.
Sometimes you used the Blogger like Google product or
WordPress.com or like there were a whole bunch of these that all gave you a different experience. And people were all over, and none of them were like closed. You know, like so you would choose whichever one you wanted. You'd start building your blog there, and you got to customize like often to things detriment, right? I feel like the MySpace days where you could just do whatever the fuck you wanted on your page, and it just people did, you know,
or blast a Green Day when someone shows up,
And now you're lucky if someone's like, "Ooh, you can choose between these 5 profile colors or whatever," right? And again, this is all there are good reasons for this stuff too, right?
Yeah, it's not really lamenting it so much as just recognizing like what the different vibe.
Well, there was a freedom to it, and like freedom has costs.
Yeah,
you know,
it has high costs.
So this kind of, I guess, a good segue into the Steam malware question. Okay, because there was some game delivered malware through Steam and fucked up some kind of like cancer charity fundraising thing, stole a bunch of, I think, crypto or something from it.
I think it was actually from a cancer like a guy who was dealing with cancer who was doing a stream. Played this game and it stole his crypto. It was like $30,000 of crypto.
So obviously that's bad, and it's a consequence of something that we like about working with Valve, which is that they don't have a cert process. So if we want to release a patch for Xbox, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, even iOS, we got to go through a person will look at the patch and then decide whether to allow us to release that to players. We've talked in the past about how it's kind of a security theater thing because it's software. And
because I was going to argue this isn't a consequence of the absence of cert on Steam because you can't.
You could do this kind of anywhere. And like we had talked in the past about how Epic did this by they had a switch in, I think it was in Fortnite, where they hid aspects of the game to get through Apple's approval, and then they turned those things on via a server communication switch after the fact. Because again, it's software, and you're not sending the source code to Apple, and even if you did, would they have the resources to parse it?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely
they don't,
not.
right? So everything is built on trust, and Valve just kind of takes it to the extreme, which is they're just like, yeah, it's just pure trust. If you want to deploy a patch to your players, you upload it to Steam, and you can just immediately send it off. I don't know what kinds of like automated checks they have behind the scenes to try to figure out if it's malware or a
They're
virus.
probably doing
or whatever.
some detection but the thing about malware is like, unless you're using malware that already exists and somebody has caught, and then plugged in a discovery mechanism to find it.
Yeah.
Right. And that, like, so this is how antivirus works. It basically does exactly that. So, and the reason that antivirus software is helpful is because it's essentially dealing with a huge database of signatures of kinds of things that are bad, so that I can scan stuff to look for those signatures. That's also why if your antivirus is out of date by even like a day,
they're always like, do it, update it now.
Yeah. That's why you got to keep it up to date, because it's not a magic system that can somehow guess that a thing is malware, right? People have to have discovered somehow, usually by being infected by it, right? That something is malware, and then go through a long, slow process of somehow informing entities that can detect.
It's matching against known threats, you know.
So my bet is that Steam is doing a bunch of stuff, probably related to scanning all of the binary files and stuff that come into their system to look for known threats, right? But unknown
emphasis
threats,
on the known.
Yes, it's on the known. And unknown threats or I guess, the known things are like what's more accessible to people. And so they're probably doing a best possible job already and probably keeping out a lot of stuff in all likelihood, right? But there's no way to keep stuff from squeaking through. And especially like these days, it's all stealing crypto. That's
I thought crypto was secure, Adam. I thought that was the whole point.
It's all crypto.
Just user error, probably.
But that also means that like, but that's a new domain too of because who's paying attention to like malware that steals crypto, right? Because there are a lot of people who have a lot of money in crypto, so there's a lot of incentive for somebody to be doing it. But the stuff that most people care about is keeping their banking information safe and other kinds of stuff, right? And so that's where resources that your average person is paying for are going into those things.
And your crypto's not FDIC insured, it's just if somebody robbed your bank account, you actually have insurance for that through the FDIC, right? You don't have that with crypto. So again, I don't know, the whole thing's insane, but like what that means though is like with a system like what Valve has, which is like developers can just upload a patch and send it. Or if you got MySpace, you just put whatever HTML you want on there and send it, right? It allows for a lot of free expression and a lot of like cool things and fast turnarounds and rapid iteration and weird stuff. But also there's a dark side to it, which is like every now and then a bad actor is going to slip through and you have to figure out whether that's worth the cost, I think.
But it's not just a trade that way either too, right? Because it's like, what is the dark side of the entity that's policing you, right? And if it's something like Facebook, it's like, oh, well, they destroy democracies around the world, right? So like your trade-off is you might not have a shitty MySpace page. So that's good. But also democracy is gone.
I think it's worth it.
I don't know if it's a fair trade.
I almost downloaded a virus on MySpace once and I was like, never again. I don't even care if the whole world collapses.
Burn it all
I don't
down.
want I don't
never
want
again.
this. So I don't know, like forums are great. I think you're right. Yeah, the internet was pretty fucking wild back in like 2008. It was a pretty cool time. Now it's all just like three companies,
and
just kind of, yeah.
It's fun when it's just the Wild West, but not right now. It's the Wild West, but in like the most evil way possible, because it's like you're saying, it's a handful of mega companies who are doing the grossest things with the data and with the money they have. But then because it's all algorithmically driven it's all algorithmically driven entertainment within themselves, and so then all it is like a cesspool of just the worst stuff. And you can find good stuff in there, just like on the internet. There's good stuff in there too, but that's not what's being surfaced to you. It's kind of like I remember the Switch when Stumble Upon, which I loved back in the day, was so fun. Because
you ought to explain what that is for our younger audience.
So Stumble Upon was a service that, and it had like a extension in Chrome and Firefox or whatever. So you could just hit the button, Stumble Upon, and it would stumble upon some random website, right? And so people who are using Stumble Upon would then, if they're on a website that they're into, they would add it to Stumble Upon and add some tags, add some information about it, so it all becomes kind of like. You can say, like, oh, I'm interested in this kind of stuff, and then stumble upon, here's a random website about that kind of stuff, right? It was so fucking fun to just, I would spend hours and hours and hours just being like, stumble, right? Just seeing what weird, and every experience was distinct.
You'd be like, oh, this is Kevin's website about Cheetos. Kevin fucking loves Cheetos, and he just made a whole website about it.
It has some similarities to stuff like TikTok or the YouTube Shorts, right? In a sense where it's like you don't know exactly, you're just like next, and you get something. I think the difference is the sheer variety of it was just way more intense, right?
And it wasn't really an eye for quality or anything. It was just like just random.
No, but in the earlier days, in the early days of it though, because it was community driven, so people wanted to put stuff that they thought other people should see in there, right?
But things could be reported, so like if somebody
there were mechanisms to kind of do a little bit, but
site or whatever.
Yeah, that kind of stuff doesn't last because then at some point, once it got big enough that people were like, ooh, I can make money by submitting all my spam websites and my malware websites and whatever to this. And eventually, like, you can't keep up. And we don't get to have nice things because
the internet ruins things at scale.
It's not even the internet. It's just people. People ruin.
The internet enables people to ruin things at scale.
Yeah. And everything, everything good on the internet can't survive scale because there's no way to, as it scales, to keep it constrained. And so, so this Stumble Upon kind of just disappeared.
And I'm reading the book Careless People it's about Facebook, and there's this really funny moment in there where they're talking about what happened when they reached 1 billion users. which is they started freaking out internally in a bad way. Why do you think that is?
Because they're running out of people on the planet.
Because they're running out of people.
Oh, yeah.
Because this was in like 2012. And like, okay, we have 1 billion users. This is a problem because we need growth. And they're like, the first billion is the easy billion. Because these are the people who already have internet access and are internet savvy.
It was Facebook talking about, because Facebook was really excited about stuff like Starlink and that sort of thing, because they were like, if we can get more internet to more people, we can get more Facebook users, right? Because they'd already saturated the market on the internet connected part of the planet.
Yeah.
And they were like, we need to get internet to the people so we can steal their data too, you know,
So they were doing stuff like the author of this book was like sent over to Myanmar to meet with like a military dictator because Myanmar kept banning Facebook because it doesn't allow them to control the flow of information, you know. And so they're literally like sending their employees like into active
as emissaries,
war zones
like,
and stuff, trying to get trying to negotiate deals just so they can sign more people up to Facebook because they need growth. Like it needs to consume everything.
Well, that is the joke about the modern form of unconstrained capitalism, right? Is that nothing can last forever. That's like nothing can, right?
Nothing can grow forever. Nothing can
grow forever. Eventually, you run out of something, right? But until really recently, it was pretty hard to get to the point where there was literally nothing left. You know,
you couldn't.
And
where every person on the planet is your customer, and there's nowhere else to go.
But we're now seeing that with things like Facebook is still, I think, the only thing that's really pulled that off. I don't think anything else is.
I mean, smartphones are kind of there too, right?
Oh, smartphones is
it's like Android and iOS. They can only really take market share from each other. They can't really.
I guess Google accounts are probably extremely common.
With the exception of like China, which has their own separate ecosystem, but it's kind of the same there, which is like once you've got everybody in China, you know, on Bilibili.
You got your
there's nowhere else to go.
Everybody's on there. Yeah. So then like for the first time in the digital space, you can actually run out. And so then what happens to the model of you have to keep growing though somehow anyway. And that's why everything becomes
that's the shitification.
That's normal.
It's not about growing your users, it's about growing your revenue. Well, growing your profit specifically. Let's get on to the next question, which is from Jumpy Lumpa Leapilo, who says, oh, sorry, this is the ghosting question we did previous episode. Skipping that one. Who says, we got another question from Jumpy Lumpa. So, question is, Adam, I am impressed and not at all surprised by the openness you had with your bros and company in expressing the coming burnout. Did you have any stress in knowing it was on the horizon? How does it feel being able to share it with everyone and start the process, even if just planning, to alleviate it? So talk about what did happen with burnout.
Well, I guess was there stress generated by the fact that this was a thing that you wanted to address at some point?
Yeah. So the story is that back in 2022, I don't know, at some point we're looking down the barrel of the rest of Crashlands 2. Sam and Seth were like, there's so much of this. This is going to be so hard to do. We need to make sure that we have all the time and the possible to get this thing actually done. And so we decided to then have me basically, because we had kind of a diffuse charge. I think at the time Seth was technically the CEO and was managing a lot of some of the business stuff, but that was mostly Sampy anyway. And then we kind of had this like diffuse sort of leadership of the company. So the idea was I'll take over explicitly as like, okay, I'm the person who is in charge of the company, so that Sam and Seth could have their time fully going into as much as possible all of the game dev stuff. So that was the intent, and so that's what I did, and that was basically, it was a roller coaster, you know, up and down things. There were a lot of periods where I got to still work on other stuff, work on projects for the team, software projects. Made Blork,
which is our internal
string server, made
Stitch
for VS Code. I did a whole bunch of stuff that I got to work on. It was just always with the background of like doing one-on-ones with the team, doing all the negotiations with third-party business things, trying to keep an eye on our production schedule, trying to figure out what's going on with localization, basically like doing a million things that were not.
The tech stuff was always non-urgent, whereas like communication with third parties is always urgent because we need to keep those things moving. And so the fun building part of the work always had
it's kind of always at the backseat. And that was still fairly manageable until we started getting to the phase where we're like preparing to finish the game and launch, which is the whole like last year, right? It's a long period of time. And then my time was like really just kind of going into that, but in a way that earlier, because we were earlier, like it wasn't about the details of the game really. It was more just practical, like making sure the team was doing stuff, we were making the connections we needed to, all that kind of thing. As we started to get closer to launch, it became about marketing and PR and detail, like specifics about
information details that you didn't have, you weren't privy to because
I just didn't have. I wasn't the one closest to that material.
So you then had to manage the whole thing of like, okay, I've got these requests for information from like these three parties who I then I can't actually answer them, so I need to go funnel them over to whoever internally can answer them, and then take the information, put it back over there, or put people in contact. A lot of that sort of stuff, which I think
just a lot of middlemanning and never having basically feeling like I'm not in control of anything. I'm just this like weird conduit,
just shepherding, herding cats around.
and I was trying to basically do it so that I could basically filter stuff and prepare it, ask questions first, do all the things I needed to do so that what happened on Same As Us Plates was still like as lightweight for them as possible. But ultimately it was just deeply unsatisfying kind of work to basically be like on board for, because I don't have any responsibility with what Crashlands 2 is. Didn't make it. I had some suggestions here and there sporadically throughout development, right? But I have no real creative relationship to the thing that the studio spent 4.5 years building, and no control over it. I have no way to make any decisions related to it whatsoever.
It's being a manager, it's just
so I was basically like this weird passenger where I'm like, and it was fairly tolerable when my day-to-day wasn't like, how do we sell this game now, right?
I think when you're building the tools and stuff, we never heard anything about any of this, right? Because the reality is like, as much as
it was still a little stressful because of the background stuff, but it was very manageable when I had the other stuff.
Because you're still like doing the work of enabling the product to exist, right? The case of like creating Stitch or art pipeline stuff. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that like just cool technical stuff to put together that ends up being reflected in the game's shape, even if it's not, deciding the shape of the game in the first place, right?
Yeah.
But then as you get closer to the end, then it's all that's done, and now it's like
it's now just trying to figure out how do I sell this thing that I didn't make. And people ask me questions, why didn't you do this? Why did you do this? Why is this way? Ooh, we should do an interview with this podcast about whatever. And I'm like, nobody's going to want to talk to me because I don't have the answers they want. Because they're going to they have questions about Crashlands too. How it was designed, why we did, whatever. And if a player's asking about something, like wanting me to defend something, I'm like, I honestly don't know why. I don't know. I don't know why this is the way that it is. And even if I do, I'm like, that's weird for me to like, it's not my place, right?
The funny thing is like, that's like, this is a role in like larger studios, right? As like marketer, right? Which is like somebody who definitely did not work.
Manager or
somebody who doesn't work on the game, didn't design it, didn't write any code for the game or whatever the case may be, but still has to go out and hype it up and talk about it and do interviews and put together.
Yeah. So which will be challenging for those people too, but hopefully they at least are into it, because like if you're into it, if it's a job, it's still challenging, like very challenging.
Yeah. But that's never been your particular favorite space to be in. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not, So it's just a long slog of that. But I guess
Adam's a technician. Like you're a builder. Like you like to just solve problems and make things, which is I think true of all of us really. And so, it's a tough role to land in, especially when you're that far from the material. So then as that year like wrapped up, then, as we're hitting the launch window, I think part of the question is basically, was it a trepidation about, knowing that you wanted something to be different and being able to bring that over to the rest of the team and be like, could we do something different because I'm dying,
Yeah, it was one of those like something had to change, and I knew that was true. But it was in addition to that, though, I just also firmly believed that made sense for me to do that given the scope of what we were doing with Crashlands 2.
Yeah.
But it also didn't make sense for us to do something like that again, at least not for a while. And we needed to be doing smaller stuff. And so the constraint that made that like make sense was gone anyway.
Mhm.
And so, and I firmly believe
it was a
that
particular
it was in,
window. It wasn't like a permanent role we were shepherding you into. Yeah.
And so I firmly believe that was the best interest of the studio for, and especially having had that experience of being like so removed from the project, but then being responsible for it in this like kind of administrative high level way.
Like a true CEO, you know?
Yeah, I was like, this isn't good for the team or the project to have that separation. Actually, like it was potentially the better of the two alternatives given the scale of the project that we took on. But we should not be doing that again for either project scale or having that separation. And by not doing that project scale, now we can remove that separation and have Sam and Seth, since they're making the game, they're deciding what to make. They have reasons for doing those things, right? And again, like I'm involved with it here and there, but ultimately they're going to decide stuff, you know. So like when that happens, they'll know why. They'll be able to articulate it. Sam can make art when he needs it. He's got access to all the art that already exists for marketing purposes, right? Like they're the people who should be doing it, and all the stuff should just be more integrated than it was with Crashlands 2. Because Crashlands 2 was like, we made the game, then we tried to sell it. And we're trying to move into a phase where we're making the game and trying to market it and sell it at the same time. And the only way for that to be practical is if it's the same people doing it, right? So to me, it wasn't
no challenges, but they're
oh yeah, it has huge challenges.
There's a certain kind of challenge that's not the same conduit issue, right? So it is just very hard to be in a position where you're responsible for information about, managing timelines on, or even responsible for the success of certain projects, right? But you yourself cannot do anything to move them, right?
Yeah.
You manage the movement, you orchestrate, but you cannot do the thing, right?
Yeah.
And
the people who ultimately can are the people whose time I'm trying to save to have them not do it. You know, so that's the part where it was like, okay, we could. To me, it made basically the two things happen at once. Where one is I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I'm having a bad time, and also it doesn't make sense anyway. So I was a little worried about with the possibility of like, what if
we're like, oh no, we need you to still do it?
Yeah, what if we can't align there? Because that was going to be a problem if that turned out to be the case, because I'm not sure. Because like I literally couldn't do it anymore. And if Sam and Seth were like, well, we don't want to do any of the stuff either, then it's like, okay, what's
an
alternative, right? And
I think part of it though is like with the way we've always structured, like the reality is that basically this like CEO stuff, right, which is more about orchestration of movement within the company for all the projects, and then everything from like biz dev negotiations, product development of the actual games, back end like tech infrastructure, and then marketing stuff. All of those really high level chunks in terms of like who's in charge at any given point. We've always been pretty clear and pretty freeform about basically whatever the particular situation demands right now, and whoever best fits given that.
Yeah.
Then it's not usually been a problem, I think, in the past. We've kind of demonstrated that amongst ourselves, that like if I need to take point on something for a while, that's fine.
Well, I think a lot of that is because historically, like I didn't take point on most of that stuff.
Yeah, I think you're largely doing more on the technical stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm doing technical stuff. I'm doing some number crunching. I'm a behind the scenes person to figure out.
That's true. It's largely been Seth and I bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, and so and you guys also like would get tired of it as you're doing stuff, but the stuff that you were taking point on was usually fairly constrained, because it'd be like, ooh, we got to do this negotiation. Oh, we got to do. But it would still be exhausting to you guys because your focus is like making the game.
Yeah, you still got to make the game.
Yeah. And so I think we've all had this constant challenge of how do we do the other stuff that has to happen and the thing we actually want to be doing. And I think for me, it was this sustained period of doing stuff I didn't want to be doing, but also in service of a thing. My honest reality is I don't care that much about video games, right?
You just like solving interesting problems.
I like solving interesting problems, and I like working with my brothers in this environment. And so I joined the team literally to help out and hang out. Right, that was why.
This is why you're the tools and web developer.
Yeah, because that's my domain, right? And so once I got moved to the space of like, hey, you got to figure out how to like sell this game and all this other stuff. It was basically as far removed from my skill set and what I'm into. Because the thing too is like if you're outside of your skill set but you're into it,
It's fine.
That's
It could usually be
yeah,
pretty
you
fun.
figure it out.
Yep.
That's where passion comes into play, right? If you're not into it, but it's in your skill set, well, you can go knock it out. It's no big deal.
Mhm.
If both of those aren't there, it's so
It's just a
stressful
slog.
It's just hard.
and horrible. And so that's the space I was living. So yeah, so the short story there was I was like, oh, I don't think this makes sense anyway. Also, I can't. Those are kind of the two, both of those
I
are
guess
true.
we knew it was coming for a while, because I think even like 6 months in, as we were dealing with all the localization stuff, and really as we were starting to nail down the release date. Because I keep in mind, like, release date planning for Crashlands 2 started in like July last year. We started trying to figure out. We originally thought it was going to be maybe we could get something out by like the end of 2024. And then as we hit like August and stuff, we're like, this is just like with all the timelines and stuff, and then hitting holidays, there's no way. And as we kept looking,
January, and then we eventually punted it into
and so it was like, with all that planning, I recall after we finished the Husk, which was around July or so, and we were able to start doing some other planning stuff because we could then see the end. It was like much more of a burn down list at that point. Then I remember there already being some discussions about like how to kind of knowing that you wanted to be doing something else and being like, yeah, we know, we get it, we'll figure it out in a bit once we get there. So,
But and that's the thing is like you can tolerate anything for some amount of time.
while.
Right?
it's nice to know that there's an
And-
end coming, for these things where you're like, okay, I can last forever.
Well, and I think for me, like, because also burnout is exacerbated by stress and anxiety. Right?
Yes.
And
That's very true.
a launch, very stressful. A launch of a 4.5-year project that has to succeed well enough,
That your studio doesn't die. Yeah, very stressful.
extremely. So I was so anxious and stressed about all this stuff leading up to it at the same time that even though I was like, because we still didn't know what the plan was afterwards. Like, would I still be doing this? But we would just better distribute it. We didn't know what kind of stuff we were going to be making next.
Yeah.
We had no. This whole
wait
new
and
model
see.
we've been talking about of like we're going to make smaller stuff more quickly. That wasn't a plan at that time, right?
Mhm.
So we didn't know what any of that was going to look like. We just kind of agreed that like, it would be better if this was different somehow, But at that time, I couldn't see how it could be different.
You're still just too stuck in the thick
Just in
of
the
it.
weeds.
Yeah, so I was like, I know we all agree that it would be better if it wasn't like this, but that's also how I got myself in this position in the first place, right? Because we're like, well, it'd be better if we didn't have to, but that's the move. So it wasn't until like we got the game out, we were like looking at the stuff coming in. We, as a result of what we saw, we were like, okay, we can't put all of our eggs in one basket like this again, and we pivoted our approach. Where the net effect of all of that was just things nicely aligned, where it was easy because of course we all want each other to be happy in our work, but we also all know that on occasion we're not going to be, because it's not the life you get to live, So we all want that for each other, but the practical question of like, how is it feasible? What does the timeline
When?
look like, right? Is
Well,
always the
I think
question.
it's also just about minimizing the bullshit. Like every job is going to have some peripheral nonsense that you got to kind of deal with. You don't want that to be the whole job,
Yeah.
And if it is, then you gotta make a change. So I think what's kind of interesting about the burnout thing too is like, I think in a way we're all feeling it.
Yeah.
Just because
100%.
like working on a project.
It's a high stress project. 4.5 years, dude.
We've talked about the problem of
So
like
much.
things being too precious. And how, for example, even like we've been making a bunch of YouTube shorts to work on marketing and stuff for How Many Dudes, as well as to like try some experiments for marketing for Crashlands 2 and then Levelhead. And it's very cathartic to make these, just to like record, like think of something funny, record it. It's 30 seconds, 45 seconds long. You clip together a few clips, throw some music over top of it, throw it out on YouTube shorts, and you're done, right?
Yeah.
And compare that to making a trailer and the number of people that get involved. We have even like for Crashlands 2, because most of our audience is in China, like we'll make trailers for the updates, and then we have to go through the localization pipeline. We get the game translated, we vet that, we pull that down, we recapture footage. I say we, I mean Jordan. Like so we got to orchestrate this. Like somebody on the team has to do all this stuff, recut a Chinese version of the trailer. We got to get subtitles. We got to get that translated. There's like 20 people involved in the process. And it's just a fucking project. Like every single thing in getting this game put together, every little tiny piece of something that you see a slugabun, you see a tree, like every single thing in this game is like a body of work that took tons of people to figure out and get hooked in. And man, like you do that for 4.5 years and it's just like, can we just fucking not?
I think it's one thing if it pays off in like some like massive way, right? I think it's Crashlands 2. It has been successful, right? I think that's an important sort of.
But it didn't fundamentally change what's going on, right?
Yeah, that was always, of course, that's always the hope when you're betting as big as we did on a game like that. Which is
everything is judged on its outcomes. I mean, had the original Crashlands been 5 or 10 times as successful as it was, we wouldn't have had to worry about the marketing so hard on Crashlands 2. We wouldn't have had to track down business deals. We would have been in a Silk Song situation where it's just like, just fucking make a good game and put it out, and the people are waiting, which is not the situation that we were in. And I even like stumbled across a thread in the iOS gaming subreddit a while back where people are like, this was, I think, in probably July or something that this thread was put together. Because somebody was like, hey, I didn't know Crashlands 2 was out. Is it good? And then it started this big conversation about like, I don't know why Butterscotch doesn't market their games, And I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like,
we did everything. We did everything we could do.
Yeah, we reached out to thousands of
It's not
streamers,
just we
YouTubers.
YouTube ads. We got literally
we did
millions
YouTube ads,
of views
millions of views. We got trailers.
We got gaming show.
Full featuring. We got featuring on the stores, right? Like, it was there. We pulled every fucking lever we have,
Well, there's and more like, and it's a lot of things, and because of the past successes of our games and our access to platforms and stuff, right? The level of visibility we got was just much, much higher than any indie game can expect to get. And still,
almost nobody knows.
Nobody saw it. Right? Nobody knows the game. I see that comment so frequently.
Yeah, why doesn't I didn't know this was out?
The main way in it is just like, I didn't know this game was out, and I'm like, we did. I don't know what else we could
I get it, because like most people don't know about most games.
Yeah, that's the reality, right?
If 10 million people know about your game, almost nobody knows about your game because there's billions of people, right? It's
but this part of why it's so stupid though, right? Too, because it's like, or part of why platforms are so frustrating, right? Because so many people know about Crashlands from mobile. Who knows Crashlands 2 came out? Apple and Google, right? What they also know is who has played Crashlands 1. What they could have done is literally fucking emailed everybody, right?
Like, a sequel to this game that you played a lot of just came
out. Maybe that's something you're into.
They don't let us do that. They don't do it.
Yeah, we can't do it. They won't do it. And so it's this frustration of visibility is just so high, and it's just the frustration is at its core that it doesn't have to be this way. And
always.
Well, so like after the Crashlands 2 launch, as we were working through the Crashlands 2 updates and kind of like putting a bow on the whole thing, and we started getting into those conversations about the changes to make inside the studio. So part of it was like Sam and I needed a change on the game side. Adam needed a change on what he was doing. And so I think in all cases now, like everybody's moving in a direction that we're all very excited about because like what Adam's working on is LudoKit, which is all the tools and tech and wild shit and all the problems we run into and all the frustrations we've had with dealing with all the stuff we just talked about. We've had to figure those things out and manage them. How do you put together your achievements? How do you translate your game? How do you manage your marketing? Just like all this stuff.
How do you even just know what pages
to
of
do
your stores to go to do stuff
to get your game out? And so LudoKit is the product that we're putting together, or it's a service, I guess. It's a website that will allow other developers to have access to this type of management layer to much more easily handle all this administrative stuff that comes with making a game and getting it released. And we're using, so Adam's building that, and it's already starting to come together, and we're using it internally, and it's
use it all the time.
It does almost nothing, and it's already used.
It does almost nothing, and yet it's now indispensable because that's still much more than what the platforms were doing for us. So we have that going on, but then Sam and I are working on How Many Dudes, and the goal with How Many Dudes is like just like internally for us, we just need to be like, who gives a shit? That's kind of like the slogan, because everything we did in Crashlands 2 had to be perfect. How Many Dudes were just like, is it is it just fun? Is it just funny? Is it just dumb? Is it goofy?
Well, and you've also figured out a way to make the marketing aspect of it fun too.
Yes,
Yeah.
for us to do.
So
Yeah.
that, and also falling into the who gives a shit kind of a category.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, it's like just try some stuff with marketing and don't spend 3 weeks making the perfect trailer. Just make some fun videos and put them out there because, we've even like one of our YouTube shorts for How Many Dudes already has over 100,000 views.
Yeah, totally organic, right?
The
No
second
trailer,
one
no
we made-
trailer we put together pre-launch for any game, Crashlands included, has ever gotten more than like 25,000 views. Maybe.
for comparison, we put out the Crashlands 2 1.3 trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I think like the day after that or something, which is a full video. Like this, and again, this is a trailer that we translated. We spent tons of time on. We got Fat Bart involved to do the audio work. Huge undertaking. It has like 1,300 views.
Yeah.
Yep. What are we doing? Spending all this time to do all this work. It's just focusing on the wrong. It's not focusing on the wrong thing. It's just like putting the focus in the wrong place. If that kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so like we're using How Many Dudes then and the development of that and the marketing of that and whatever to inform what goes into LudoKit because we're running into, as we're working on a new game, we're getting it set up on the different store backends and stuff. We're dealing with the kinds of administrative overhead that comes with all of that. And each time we run into a problem, we go over to Adam and we're like, put this in LudoKit. Figure out this problem and then figure out how to put the solution into LudoKit.
Well, yeah, that's a big part of the idea, right? Is historically, like we said, we haven't released very many games.
Yeah.
Because we've been doing this now for 12 years. And the first, whatever you guys are doing it, 2 years probably, released like 4 fucking games.
In English only.
In English only. Yeah. English, mobile. Since then, we've launched 3 games and cross-platform, multiple language. Like we've done a lot. There's a lot more than going into
Got fancier,
But the hard part was the game. Like the game itself was ultimately what caused the change in scale. But practically that just meant we were launching games every
few years,
5 years, 5 years, whatever. Right? Like just every several years, and that also meant setting up a new store page every few years, right? Like so we weren't getting good at this stuff, and to the point where even like I've built a lot of tooling for the studio to help with our daily work. But this kind of stuff where we're like, well, we only have to do it every few years.
Just deal with it.
Just deal with it, right?
Yep.
But if we're going to try to start making games more frequently, then that sucks more and more, right? But it also means that like we actually don't know for sure what would be good to have as tooling to help with this stuff because we've done it so rarely. We have a good idea for making games, but for all the rest of this, we just have to kind of figure it out.
Yeah. Well, this is the funny irony of it is like so many of our tools assist with the development process, but like in the world of DevOps, people always talk about at the end of the day, you can have like, or like we're talking about like security people taking over a project. And it's like, wow, this is so secure and completely unusable. It's 32, it's got 32 factor authentication. Nobody can fucking log in, which means nobody's hacking this thing, but also you got no customers, right? And so, if we spend all day long focusing on making our own development experience smooth, but then we're still only releasing games every 4 years, what is that for?
Yeah.
So if we can get, and we say like, okay, we're going to try to get How Many Dudes out in maybe like a 6-month window. What that really means is like half of that time is going to be going into marketing How Many Dudes. And when I say half, I don't mean like the last 3 months. I mean, just 3 months of work dispersed throughout those 6 months. Because if we just make the game, it might be a 3-month project, but then nobody knows about it. And what was the point of that again? And so
you have to your brain just has to get bigger. You know what I mean? It's like, it reminds me of the Galaxy Brain meme where it's like, make a good game. And then it's like, make a good game that can pass cert on all platforms, and then it's like, make a good game that is marketable, like is already marketed as you're building it. It's like, as you make more of them, you have to start the fun part, which is like just making the fucking game. There's a reason that people don't have like fucking marketing jams where you just market like random shit. No one does that because it's not particularly interesting to do. It doesn't make any sense, right? You do it because you want to make the game, but then in order to sustain that kind of thing, you have to go further out and further out and further out until what you're making is not just the game, but the full scale marketing and delivery of that thing, right? What I'm most excited about with not just how many dudes then, the integration thing that we're doing there, where we're just doing that constantly, is the fact that LudoKit feels like, for me, it feels like basically providing like Butterscotch publishing as a software tool for people, which is like, here's how we
service.
Yeah.
It's self-publishing, self-service, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Here's
how we tackle all this bullshit.
Self-published, and that means we've always had to figure out all that shit on the back end. But we ourselves have never had a tool to manage all of it, and so, and just like as maybe like a simple example is just something like your key art, meaning the promotional images that you use to promote the game, which those typically would end up getting compiled into like a slug on Steam. Slug meaning like the little promotional images that you see next to the game's name and search results. You also need like full-size box art, but then also on different platforms, you would use that same key art to promote the game in different ways via like overlaying the title in different ways, changing the cropping or the aspect ratio.
You got dozens of
using a variant of a background, having your different translations of your title, because that has to be different art.
So at the end of the day, you might end up with 400 different versions of your key art. How do you manage that? Well, the typical way is just throw it all into Dropbox or Google Drive and hope that it's somewhat searchable, and then just go digging through the pile. And then if you don't have what you need, you got to get your artist involved to like recut a new one or whatever. It's like every single one of these little steps, whether it's getting images on there, getting achievements hooked up and integrated, even just like managing patch notes, stuff like that. All these things are actually kind of big problems that take a lot of tedium and a lot of work because there's just not a good tool to collapse it all down.
Well, and even when there are tools, you always have to know so much. Because to me, the translation is the one that's like is such an obvious win, because dealing with localizing stuff is hard for a bunch of reasons. None of those things specifically are hard. It's that if you don't know about them,
they're impossible.
They're literally impossible. And there's so many of those things. There's a stack, infinitely stacked deep, and it's a combination of like practical things, philosophical things, and technical things that, because even like the file formats you're dealing with for exchanging information with Loc, and it's like what do they expect when you're saying this stuff? What are you going to get back? How do you evaluate it?
Wasn't also there something like wasn't there with the Japanese? There's like not a carriage return character or some weird. There was something that made it so like all of the text for one of the languages was just like smashed together, but that was like just how.
We had to add a zero width space in between all characters.
Yes,
on our export,
right?
Because
they don't use spaces. So that if you need multi-line text that has line breaks in it in English or in like a lot of Western languages, you have spaces between words, and so that's a natural place to break the line. What do you do in a language that doesn't use spaces?
Yeah, and that's going to depend on your game engine and what it can support. And so in our case, we're like, well, GameMaker is not good at handling that, so we just have it so that the string server just inserts a zero width space between every single character when it exports all of your data, so that the game doesn't have to deal with it. Yeah, so there's like endless stuff like this where ideally you wouldn't even have to know about it at all. It's just like, follow these steps. Hit this button to export a thing that you can hand off to your translators. It has everything in it that they need.
Our tool would have documentation about what it's doing, so that it's not a black box, And like, so we don't currently have the translation stuff hooked into LudoKit. That's a longer term thing that we want to do. But yeah, like these are like, we do have our own tool that we just call it the string server that does all of these things. And so the goal with LudoKit is to take stuff like the string server, stuff like how we handle our change logs and patch notes and QA testing, like all these different things, pull them all under one roof and just give developers sort of like a one-stop shop, start to finish, of like getting your game up off the ground, working on it, deploying to platforms, handling changes, handling
news announcements,
store page setup, news announcements, like just kind of. It should just be like it should be like your developer companion that's just there with you the whole time and always has the answers to whatever it is that you're running into. Yep. Unless you're on PlayStation, you don't know shit about that.
But it is funny, like as I've been like researching the various things I need to know, because it's also about handling the cross-platform aspects of things, So sometimes it's a lot of tedium to get all the answers and figure out how they relate to each other, right? But then sometimes it's just like, well, we don't have PlayStation access. We don't have, and that shit's locked down, right? So I don't even know. Like, how do achievements work? What are the icon requirements? Well, I don't know anything. What are even the supported languages that like PlayStation
I think the
has?
funny thing with that though is that like it's just the fact that you don't need it before this becomes like super useful. Because even if the whole idea is basically, even if you're just on Steam, right?
Yeah, that's already useful. Yep.
Then it should be end to end, just like solving a shitload of problems for you. And then if you're also cross-platform, then it's like lets you just sort of already solve the other problems associated with those things
at the same time.
way.
Yeah, but like for example, if you've got your achievements set up on Steam, and then you're maybe going to release on Google Play or something like that, rather than having to research, okay, how do I set up all the achievements and like convert my icons and the like LudoKit.
What sizes do they need to be?
Yeah.
Do they have to have special names?
Yep.
Also, if I want to localize my achievement information,
How do I do with that
how do you
bullshit?
do that?
how do I get from having it in Steam to having something to hand off to my Loc team? And when I get it back, how do I get it back? Right. Just take away all of that. Just like that's
Let
ultimately
LudoKit take care of it, baby. Don't even
Don't
trip.
worry.
We talked about it so much, and I now have 3 weeks before this episode goes live. Do I need to get LudoKit.com up?
Yes, I think get it up,
Okay.
and let's get at least a newsletter sign up, and then we can have people go to LudoKit.com, put your email address in there if you're interested in this sort of thing, and if you want to get in on the ground floor of this situation.
Yeah, it's going to be a paid service in some way at some point, but there's probably going to be
There'll be a beta stage.
there's going to be a beta stage. There's probably going to be some kind of a free tier, and it's not going to be an insanely priced thing.
Because we know that like the people using it are probably going to be people like us, or people like who we were when we were getting started, which is like we got $10 in a dream, and so like we know that we can't like charge $100 a month per seat or some wild shit like that.
Not
so
for
yeah,
basic
we'll
nonsense.
try to figure out.
It'll
But
be
at this point we're
it'll
still
be
just
fair.
getting it sort of built.
Yeah. So it won't be accessible to anybody else but
Go
we
sign
want
up.
to make sure that you can sign up so you can say, hey, I want to know when it's like when it goes into a beta test or when it's just available or whatever. So sounds like I got to get that up.
Do it. You committed. You got time.
I'm committed to it.
Yeah, locked in. All right, well, we'll have to wrap the episode there because we are out of time.
Yep.
We'd like to thank our producers, Fat Bard and Sampa DaCosta, for putting the podcast together. And thanks to our community moderators who keep our Discord running. To get more involved in the Butterscotch community, just go to podcast.bscotch.net, where we have links to the Discord, a way for you to donate to support the podcast, and links to the archives. And as Adam mentioned, head over to ludokit.com if you're interested if you're a developer who's looking for a nice one-stop shop to manage all your administrative bullshit with getting a game launched. When we will shoot out emails when we go into beta with this thing and with just updates about its progress and features, and we can potentially use it for feedback, all kinds of stuff. So definitely head over there and check that out. And otherwise, head over to Google Play, App Store, Steam, pick up all of our games, and give them some good reviews. We'd appreciate it. It goes a long way. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.